So we get back to Aurobindo compassion. Because after seeing all this, only the divine or someone who is got no sense would still have the wish to change the world. And we know that this is the divinity of Aurobindo, that having seen all this, not just individual human natures, in fact, this is an illusion that there is an individual human nature. That's why Aurobindo keeps referring in his yoga that each of you is a type. And the mother earlier referred to each of us as an impossibility. We have read the line, this incurable malady pursues man's days. But after the supramental descent, she said, one of the things that earlier I referred to each of you as an impossibility, I would say it's no more an impossibility but a difficulty. So it's a representative type. So each human being or a nature which is embodied in a human being actually is conterminous with the universal nature from which it draws its source, sustenance, support and everything else. Of course we have a role to play. Otherwise we'll be simply, there is nothing like sadhana at all. The role is that to the extent we subscribe to that part, to the extent we say yes or no to these forces, to the extent we identify with them, because everybody experiences these things. In one place, Aurobindo says that even great beings have experienced everything. Temptations, doubts, clouding, states of clouding, all these things are universal, this lower nature. But the difference is that one admits them freely, the other identifies with it, third justifies it completely, fourth says this is normal and natural, fifth goes to a height that this is what is meant by all life is yoga. But this is a category which would not change till some shock would really shake us from this ground. The other is who says, yes, this is there, I experience it, this is there as part of my nature, which I have to work upon, and by the grace, it is possible to get out of this zone and to change it completely. This is the basic difference between one who is identified with this life and the other who is trying to emerge. But this is universal and we all share it to some degree or the other. Even the person who is not conscious of it, because there are a lot of people who especially use the mind's will to control. Aurobindo in several places have spoken of it. They simply, by the mental will, control certain energies of these parts, some grosser aspects, and they believe they are free of it. But this is usually an illusion, and it required, that's why Mother has repeatedly said sincerity is the key to the divine doors. It's only in the light of a growing sincerity, as the soul in us emerges, that we begin to see things which were hidden. Just as we clean the floor with a little bit of vinyl and phenyl and we think it is free of bacteria and dirt. But actually, people will see it that in the crevices and below and anyways below the tiles it is all there. And even on the surface it is there. So mental control is like this. From the eye of the mind, certain things are hidden. But it is there. It is either chained or maimed or drugged or simply put a nice robe. Many times we give nice names to this lower vital world to simply give it a justification to exist ad infinitum till it becomes ad nauseam. So here Aurobindo is telling us, yet was this only a provisional scheme. So the hope is, because this is only a passing phase. This malady of the soul, page 167, the last two lines, a false appearance cast by limiting sense, mind's insufficient self-discovery, an early attempt, a first experiment. This was a toy to amuse the infant earth. So we have several stages of our schooling, as we have read. This earth is not the only nurse. We have other nurses. And this is a difficult nurse. She gives us all the things which are harmful for our health, like cola drinks and chocolates, and she feels this is love. And naturally, the infant gets used to it. So when he grows up, it's so difficult to wean him off. So this is like that these are toys given to amuse. That's all. But as we begin to grow up, these toys are either snatched away or we have to learn to get rid of them. This was a toy to amuse the infant earth. But knowledge ends not in these surface powers. The lower vital has its own power. The human love, the human knowledge, the human will has its own limited power and scope. And we think that is all. So he says it does not end with that. But knowledge ends not in these surface powers that live upon a ledge in the ignorance and dare not look into the dangerous depths or to stare upward, measuring the unknown. We are happy measuring with our little inch and tape of the little mind the small things of life and thank heavens for them, while the true depths remain unknown to us. We are, as Aurobindo says, petty traffickers. In one of the places he says, petty traffickers, misers of the sense. This is our state. In petty coastal wares, small little things we take from here to one port to another, and we think we are great adventurers. But this is the true adventure. That's why mother said, my child, this is an adventure. All this is concealed. When we take to yoga, we have to grapple with it. That's why one needs, as Nalinida has said in this yoga, one needs to have the soul of a hero or else of a child. These are the two requirements, because to see these worlds and go through them, or to face their menacing energies and influence, because they rebel and don't let us pass, there is a deeper seeing from within. And when we have left these small purlieus of mind, a greater vision meets us on the heights, in the luminous wideness of the Spirit's gaze. So long as we are attracted to these things, we cannot free the inner sight. This is the condition. Often we complain, why don't we develop this inner sight? And people even try mechanical methods. But the only way to free the inner sight is that we have to disengage from this hypnosis of the small self and the small life. In the luminous wideness of the Spirit's gaze, at last there wakes in us a witness soul that looks at truths unseen and scans the unknown. Then all assumes a new and marvelous face. What is that new face when the psychic steps out? Then even these darknesses and dangers appear as masks of God, or as toys which the divine has created to amuse the infant soul. Then we say, oh, when they are snatched away, we say, oh, I was playing with this toy too long. It's a new vision. They appear as masks of God. And sometimes we see that delight even in these small things, because they rush from every side. The world quivers with a godlight at its core. In time's deep heart, high purposes move and live. Life's borders crumble and join infinity. That is the hope Aurobindo saw. Many mystics have seen this state of world, its darkness, its fallen state, and they have declared that the void is all. But Aurobindo went deeper, saw the beings and entities that move it, went still deeper, went to its roots, from where is it nourishing itself, and finally in the heart of that darkness he saw wells of light. And therefore he could say, yes, I see at the core that there is the supreme light shining in its depths, and therefore this world will become divine, because at its core it is divine. This is the fundamental thing of Aurobindo's yoga philosophy, if one may use the word, that at its core, everything at its core contains a seed of divinity, and that's why it cries for it, which he will tell us a little later in this very canto. This broad, confused, yet rigid scheme becomes a magnificent imbroglio of the gods, a game, a work ambiguously divine. Actually, just a shift of the consciousness from the egoistic standpoint, and we will see how this game is interestingly divine. To take a very small example, I was just watching just a few days back this lion. They were showing how for hours he was trying to catch a prey, but he was not succeeding. If you really look at it, it would appear, oh my God, poor fellow, if one looked at the face of the lion, after a while it looked depressed. That he is not allowed a prey whole day, even a small little, hog it cannot catch on a particular day. That's what the film was showing. But it's very interesting that nature is not letting it catch, if one can look at it from another standpoint. Why? If it could allow its prey to be caught very easily, the lion will begin to lose its strength. So it makes the lion run. His lion is so strong, capable, but yet he must labor. Nature has created in its scheme of things. So the lion also grows in strength, the deer in swiftness. Because it's not lion and deer. It is strength and swiftness sporting with each other. This is the other vision. When we read Ilion, we have a very interesting, there is a book of the statesmen in the assembly. All these statesmen are debating and discussing. Paris has brought Helen, and at the doorsteps, all the Greeks have come together united to fight against him, against the kingdom of Troy. And in the assembly they are discussing and debating. So when all are saying that no, we have done a wrong thing, right thing, then Paris has something very interesting to say. He says, all these concepts of yours, actually when there is an actual battle, it is strength and strength sporting with each other. Strength is offering itself at the altar of the all strength. So all these notions that you have of outward things are melt into something else. So we see strength and swiftness. It is not tiger and deer chasing each other. Not each other, sorry, tiger chasing the deer. Sometimes the reverse also happens, they showed it. Interesting. I've seen in front of the ashram gate a little kid, that is goat's baby, actually jumping at a dog big enough and finally shooing it away. So it can happen. But the point is that it is not that. Life manifested as swiftness in a deer, life manifested as strength in a lion, is playing a game. When we look at it like that, it's amazing. A greater life devouring a lesser life, and eventually all going into the all life. So that is where we begin to see a game, a work ambiguously divine. So many times in a battlefield, it's difficult to say who is the hero, the vanquished or the victor. I think some of us saw that movie Troy, and it's really, when one sees when Hector falls to Achilles, it's hard to say who is great. He falls to Achilles. Achilles is of course a master warrior, and who can stand in front of him 1-to-1? And yet Hector takes that challenge, comes out. He knows death is inevitable. He also knows that he has done something which he shouldn't have done, killing Patroclus. Of course, he was in a guise of Achilles. And in that fight, one way to look at it is to feel sad for Hector because his body is dragged and 7 days he can't be given fire. But if you see from another angle, you see what a nobility in this man. Though he dies, he leaves a noble stamp on the life of the warrior kind. So here we begin to see a game, a work ambiguously divine. Our seekings are short. Our seekings are short-lived experiments made by a wordless and inscrutable power, testing its issues from inconscient night. Another very interesting passage. So the divine creates night, if or we may put it a little lesser, allows night. Life creates death. Why? So that it can bring out of the core of life its highest possibility. If there is no challenge of death, life's greatest possibilities will not come out. For billions years, 2 billion years probably to be precise, this world had only bacteria and viruses and they never evolved because there was no death. So they were very happy. They just multiplied and multiplied and multiplied. The moment death was created, life began to evolve. Because facing the challenge of adversity, facing the challenge of its opposites, the inherent strength in us comes out. He who has not faced adversity has not known God's love. So this is where we see testing the limits. Night tests the limits of patience, the limits of hope. When everything is dark, can we still have hope? So it's a game. If we look at it from that point, it's a game. Ambiguously divine, because actually it is divine, but because of certain reasons, it appears whether it is divine or not. Testing its issues from inconscient night to meet its luminous self of truth and bliss. Small toys are snatched away so that we can really become ready to play with the sun and the stars. In Sri Aurobindo's poem, A Vision of Science, Sri Aurobindo says that, religion is passing off and science comes and religion says, look, you think you have term and end are not there for thee, you are mistaken. One day you will also have to pass away. If you want to live immortally, you must find who you are in this dungeon laboring. And then science gives a very strange answer. It almost rants. It says, what is it? I am a gas, a plasm, a cell. What is so great? I know myself. And Sri Aurobindo says, I saw a miracle before my eyes, miracle. The infinite denying its infinity. And then he is seeing all this, watching it. Then the answer came from the hills, the ancient answers pealed. And it says, wait, one day man who is playing with mud will lift his gaze and play with the stars and sport with the sun. That is what is there in the story of Hanumana. Hanumana is the converted vital. The converted vital is not happy playing with small earth stuff. So what he does, he says, what is that sun like an orange? It's a nice fruit. Let me go and eat it. And he actually goes and swallows it. Then the gods are also scared. What is this creature born on earth who can threaten the sun? And it is said that they hit him on the jaw, and that's how his jaw gets twisted, and his name is Hanuman, and they curse him that you will forget all this power of yours. So it's a very interesting story. The little vital in us is the power which has lost and forgotten itself. But always it wants to catch that sun. But it cannot catch the sun, so it's satisfied with little toys. Like when Krishna tells Yasodama that I want to play with moon. So see, how will she get moon, And Krishna, like our modern children, is an impossible child. So she says, okay, fine. So she makes a thali and puts some water in it and says, see, this is the sun. So Krishna is smart, He says, but I can't catch it. I want to catch it. I am not happy. This is a shadow. So in us too, there is Krishna wanting that moon. In us too, there is Hanuman who wants to sport with the sun. But we have forgotten it. And when faced with the challenge of crossing the seven oceans, when faced with the challenge of enormous task of being an instrument of God, the privilege, then all this knowledge comes back, this memory wakes up, this strength awakens, and we once again know we are children of Sun, Amritas Putra, Anandasya Putra. So Sri Aurobindo is telling us, reminding us, to meet its luminous self of truth and bliss. Amritasya Putra, Anandasya Putra. It peers at the real through the apparent form. It wants to see it, the real. Always, even our littleness, there is this seeking. It labors in our mortal mind and sense amid the figures of the ignorance. In the symbol pictures drawn by word and thought, it seeks the truth to which all figures point. All relations, ultimately we are trying to seek the divine. That's why we are unhappy. Mother says to believe that one can be happy is to want a personal divine by your side. It is an impossibility. In all the objects of satisfaction, we are seeking that delight. But it's impossible because we cannot seize it through the little life. In all the instruments of knowings, we are seeking that unerring knowledge. But it is impossible because the instruments deceive. And yet, everyone seeks for knowledge, love, truth, light, freedom, bliss, immortality. Even in our ignorance, we seek it. It looks for the source of light with vision's lamp. It works to find the doer of all works, the unfelt self within who is the guide, the unknown self above who is the goal. A time comes when we begin to turn our gaze towards that. All is not here a blinded nature's task. Sri Aurobindo went deep into the heart of nature. In traditional yoga or yoga vision, one saw nature and was horrified and turned to the Purusha aspect, the static divine inside, and said, my God, this is nature, now this is, what a world full of thorns, a nightmare. Even great mystics have described it, a mystic as great as Mirabai. Ye sansar kaaton ki badi. This is the world she has described. And they ended up saying that this world is not our true home. Our home is there. This is our, what is it called? Sasural, whatever, I mean. Not a very kind word for sasural, it doesn't matter. It is our husband's parental home. So this is not our true home. Our true home is there. Sri Aurobindo tells us, look carefully. Your parent is here too. And both are one. So here he is telling us, all is not here a blinded nature's task. The self is not only above and unfelt. It is also here. A word, a wisdom watches us from on high. A witness sanctioning her will and works. Divine has sanctioned it because he has seen some purpose. That purpose he will tell us later. An eye unseen in the unseen vast. We think nobody is watching us. But there is an eye, a witness gaze, which watches us all the while. An unseen eye, we do not see it, but it watches the works of time. There is an influence from a light above. Not only it watches us, it sends an influence. It intervenes in the mindless play. Even in the play of the little world it intervenes, little life. That's the story, interesting story that in one of the stories of Vishnu, there is a story of the elephant and the crocodile. And crocodile catches the elephant and elephant cries to Vishnu and Vishnu intervenes and beheads the crocodile and saves the elephant. Very simple story. But actually the deeper purport is that even where there is no conscious aspiration like that, no mind is born, yet there is some spark of divinity, and even in that littleness, the divine acts and can act. So here, Sri Aurobindo is telling us that there is an influence from a light above, even in this world. There are thoughts remote and sealed eternities. A mystic motive drives the stars and suns. In this passage, from a deaf, unknowing force to struggling consciousness and transient breath, a mighty supernature waits on time. This is a deaf, unknowing force, this mechanical nature, this lower vital world. But we pass through this transience towards a great height, supernature. It's not a blankness, it's not an absence, it's not a void, but a supernature. This little nature is only our preparation, like ABCD is taught in infancy, so that we can one day learn words, and words are taught so that one day we can learn sentences, and sentences are taught so that one day we can write beautiful poetry. It all starts with A, B, C, D. So Sri Aurobindo is telling us a supernature waits on high. The world is other than we now think and see. Our lives a deeper mystery than we have dreamed. Our minds are starters in the race to God. What a line. What a hope. We don't understand anything. Wonderful. No problem. We are starters. It's always good to remember we are always starters. And we are starters always towards a great race. And we will reach because He has become us. So he is telling us our minds are starters in the race to God, our souls deputed selves of the Supreme. Nobody is anath, nobody is orphan. This horrible concept, orphan, anath, everybody is sanath. Because in everybody there dwells something of the Supreme. The mother has catered for all of us even before we were born. As a mother knows and shares her children's lives, she has placed a small portion of herself in a hidden region of the heart, a being no bigger than the thumb of man, to face the pang and to forget the bliss. So before we are born, she has catered for it. The deputy self, a portion of herself. That's what Shri Krishna says, Mame Vansh. That is the real meaning of children of God. We are all children of God, only we don't know it. This is the only problem. And we keep paying money to wrong tax extractors. We keep paying tax to death and night. We can't help it in today's times. Our souls, deputed selves of the Supreme, across the cosmic field through narrow lanes, asking a scanty dole from fortune's hands, and garbed in beggars' robes, there walks the one. There is a very beautiful line from a mystic, great mystic, and he says, say in Urdu, then tell the English part, Yaar ko humne ja baja dekha. I have seen my friend and beloved here and there, everywhere. Kabhi, he says, I have seen him sit on the throne, and at another time I have seen him like a beggar walk on the streets. And we too behave like beggars. Like Ramakrishna says, going from door to door, asking, carrying a lantern, asking them, do you have fire? I need to light my hookah. This is Ramakrishna's story. A man was carrying a lantern and a hookah, going from door to door. Do you have a little matchstick? And people kept saying, no, no, no. Till somebody told him, well, you are carrying the fire, sir. Just see it. So we are like that. What a beautiful description of our state. Asking a scanty dole from fortune's hands. How unhappy I am. I have not got happiness. Life has been very unkind to me. Can you give me some love, sympathy, joy? What nonsense. Delight is in us. We don't need to beg and ask from anyone. We are deputy of the Supreme. What more is required? Sri Aurobindo says, there is a beautiful passage. We'll read some other time because I am getting tempted, but I am seeing the time also. Brahman is in us. So he is reminding us, even in the theatre of these small lives, behind the act is secret sweetness breathes, an urge of miniature divinity. A few lines below, 664, a heart of bliss within a world of pain. That's why we never give up. That's why we incurably seek joy. Even when we are full of suffering and pain, we don't give up. Somewhere, something must be written in my name which will make me happy. Because this bliss is dwelling inside. A heart of bliss within a world of pain. An infant nursed on nature's covert breast. Surrogate mother. Nature is only our surrogate mother. The true mother, the breast of knowledge and delight, we have not known. So she is the surrogate. Diti and Aditi. An infant playing in the magic woods, fluting to rapture by the spirit streams, awaits the hour when we shall turn to his call. What a line! That when we have done with all this, we will discover that divine is a child waiting for us to play with him, fluting, to calling us, come, come, let's play. There is another poem of Sri Aurobindo, Ahana, where he says that the mortal is wanting to change joy by his, senses. And Ahana comes and tells, and is calling Ahana, come, we will tie you with these chains. She says, why are you doing this? Free yourself. Come, I will take you to sport with Shama as slave and as master. And then we will have the ras and the sweetness of the ras and the after, the joy of the ras. So he's saying there is an infant fluting within us, calling us, come join the delightful dance. Don't be burdened with all this care and worry and anxieties. Floating to rapture by the spirit streams, awaiting the hour when we shall turn to his call in this investiture of fleshly life. A soul that is a spark of God survives. This is the hope. Not all this science and technology, but the fact that within man sleeps the divine element. A soul that is a spark of God survives. And sometimes it breaks through the sordid screen and kindles a fire that makes us half divine. Even sometimes in animals we can see it. Sacrifice. The other day it was shown how a lion was taking care of a little, I think, baby goat or something like that. It made friends, sheep. It made friends because some kind of love came out. And that which is its natural food, it forwent for a while and would take care for a long time this little baby which had strayed there. So even in this, and kindles a fire that makes us half divine. In our body cells there sits a hidden power that sees the unseen and plans eternity. Again, Sri Aurobindo's touch of gentle irony. What is the planning? We plan for little time-bound things. What will happen to me after 5 years, 10 years? This is what management gurus will tell us. Place yourself after 20 years where your company will be. Sri Aurobindo is telling us there is another one inside us who is planning eternity. He is using time to lead us to eternity. He doesn't mind failure and fall because that is the shortcut to eternity. In our body cells there sits a hidden power that sees the unseen and plans eternity. Right within the body cells, in this matter, there is hidden the divine. Our smallest parts have room for deepest needs. That's why in transformation nothing is thrown aside. The dross is removed, the ignorance, the ego, the desired self. But even in the lower vital levels, the light and jewels come. That is the story of the Vedas where the Panis and Vritras have hidden the cows in the subconscious caves. Even there are treasures which are hidden, even in the lower vital. Mother has written in one of her letters. And they have to be released. There is the treasure of strength, even sacrifice. Much, even in animal nature we find such beautiful things, faithfulness, which we have lost with the coming of the mind. All that is what? This lower kingdom. And that can be released in time. There too the golden messengers can come. A door is cut in the mud wall of self. Across the lowly threshold with bowed heads. Angels of ecstasy and self-giving pass. And lost in an inner sanctuary of dream, the makers of image of deity live. Pity is there and fire-winged sacrifice. Even animals sacrifice. Even in them pity awakes. Even in the vilest of human beings sometimes there is a touch of pity. It's known. Even in terrorists and those who have become, sometimes touch of pity awakes in them. It's there even in the cruelest person which is farthest from the divine. And flashes of sympathy and tenderness cast heaven lights from the heart's secluded shrine. Even in those gory serials, some child was recently telling me who was watching some of these vampire serials. So, parents don't like it that child is watching vampire serials. So I asked, why do you watch this serial? Child gave something very interesting. I think nobody had asked this. The child said, it's not like that. This vampire actually does not kill this particular girl because he loves her. And he ultimately changes by her love. Look at the idea. I mean, not that vampires can change by that. This is not to be tried at all. Mother has said they don't change. But the fact is that even in that, there can be those flashes which sometimes these world mind or imagination is catching it and trying to project that even in the vilest, sometimes there can be this love. Even there was this movie where this King Kong, where this giant chimps falls in love with a little lady and saves it against so many things, losing all the instincts of a beast. So even there, sympathy and tenderness, of course animals have it, sometimes more than human beings. Cast heaven lights from the heart's secluded shrine. A few lines below, 690. Lulled by time's beats, eternity sleeps in us. In this sealed, hermetic heart, the happy core, unmoved behind this outer shape of death, the eternal entity prepares within its matter of divine felicity, its reign of heavenly phenomenon. Even in our skeptic mind of ignorance, a foresight comes of some immense release. Our will lifts towards its slow and shaping hands. Each part in us desires its absolute. We read nowadays, because of the media, that rationalists and communists are visiting temples. It's very interesting, because by their manifesto, one is not supposed to believe in God. They visit temples. Somewhere this urge is there. Somewhere this longing. And what a line this is. Each part in us desires its absolute. And that is the problem which Sri Aurobindo is set out to solve. And he has assured us that he will solve. Our thoughts covet the everlasting light. Our strength derives from an omnipotent force. And since from a veiled God joy the worlds were made, and since eternal beauty asks for form, even here where all is made of being's dust, our hearts are captured by ensnaring shapes. So even in those things where we say, oh, this is after all only an appearance, this is not true beauty, beauty is inside. But Sri Aurobindo is telling us, even when we are snared by outer beauty, it is because our hearts are seeking that eternal beauty. Even in this form made of dust, our hearts are ensnared by form. We'll read this line again. Even where all is made of being's dust. We know this is dust. Why should we be attracted to dust? Our hearts are captured by ensnaring shapes. We say, oh, look how beautiful. Our very senses blindly seek for bliss. Even in their blindness, they seek for forms that are beautiful. Our error crucifies reality to force its birth and divine body here. It keeps limiting reality, keeps breaking it so that more and more. It is Kansa who brings Krishna on earth. It is Nero who brings Christ on earth. It's unfortunate but true. By compelling, by a kind of a blind compulsion, is there really a God? That's what Ravana kept saying. Is there really God? Hiranyakashipu, all these titans have done this. They have served God's plan by doing this. Is there really God? You say there is God, and they antagonize, become hostile till one day God is born. So even through that they serve God's design. Our error crucifies reality. Christ, through crucifixion, governs this world and becomes its king, its savior. It's so strange, but that is the marvel of the divine. That error crucifies reality, and reality is compelled to be born. Compelling, incarnate in a human form, and breathing in limbs that one can touch and clasp. Because human beings are blind. They say, if you are God, you must be in body and sensible. There is a beautiful poem of Amalda, where he speaks of my errant life, this errant life. Where he says, if you are really divine, I cannot lift my eyes up to heavens, because it's by mouth of clay that I supplicate. So I want your beauty to assume a human form and come to me. So the divine takes a human form and comes to us in limbs that are sensible, and breathing in limbs that one can touch and clasp. Sri Aurobindo is telling us the mystery of the incarnate divine, the avatar. Its knowledge to rescue an ancient ignorance, its savior light, the inconscient universe. So we'll pause here and continue tomorrow.